all can see my. I hope you all can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, and the volume is also good. All right. So basically, we are going to talk briefly about, let's say, the relevance of publication. So publication is really crucial. I mean, for your career, depending especially on the area you are involved in, right? Some industry may not put emphasis on that, but especially if you're in a research or academia, publication tends to be really beneficial. So I have just these few slides to kind of help us get the basics about why even publication is important. Yeah, so of course, before you can publish, you need to do your research, right? So depending on how you understand research, research can basically be defined as when you try to create new knowledge and also you use existing knowledge in, let's say, in a unique and creative way, right? And also you tend to literally try to sell or talk about some concepts, some methodologies, and of course, the understanding based on what you are finding. Yeah, other people would define research as basically pursuing new knowledge when you go through a process of discovery, and this involves diligent and, of course, systematic observation of the phenomena that you are trying to study. Then after you are done with your research, you need to try to publish it, right? So publishing it, you need the right outlet. Like, is it peer-reviewed academic journals? Are you going to publish it maybe like in some of these, online reading platforms, like where do you, and of course, don't forget that wherever you publish it is really going to affect the impact your research is going to have, and also even the impact on your professional life, right? So that's why it's really important. So now let's look at some of the importance of research. Of course, Coolidge, we have probably all heard of Coolidge, but maybe we didn't know that he is the one who said it. So there is this assertion in, let's say, any sphere of life whereby publications are important, which says that public or perish, right? So in essence, like where I am, and as we go through, my slides, I'll use my life essentially as an example to show you how research is important, how it's even got me where I am today. And so that you see how best, depending on which path you want to go, how you can draw on that. So basically, what motivates authors and researchers to go through even the writing process and also then the peer review process in order to publish, right? So in academia, normally they tend to value a lot the peer review academic journals, right? So how or what even does it even entail? So, but before that, let me just share a bit on the Coolidge. So basically, publish or perish, right? So there's a lot of competition for academic positions and research jobs. And this competition makes literally publication important, because if you don't have publication, you will not be able to literally, get the job. Like, for instance, when I applied to this job at UNCW, or University of North Carolina, Wilmington, at least when I got in, then of course I got the inside scoop that, like they tend to look at literally when they have a publication, right? What are your potential to succeed in the field that I was seeking to, get into, which was the academia, right? As an assistant professor. So they wanted to see potential, right? So if they want to see potential and you have essentially at least one or two publications already out, it puts you ahead of the pack, right? So it's even when they are shortlisting, your chance of you being shortlisted is really greater. But if you don't have a publication, then it becomes a problem, right? But if also you have, let's say, articles which you are even prepared or you are preparing for review, then it gives you also opportunity, depending on the university, and of course, depending on the job too. But when you are able to publish in peer-reviewed journal, you literally or you essentially demonstrate that you know what you are doing and you have the potential to progress. So, for instance, I had only one publication up, right? So, and of course, I had some, at that time, one had also been accepted in one of the, peer-reviewed journals. So it showed that I had the potential to progress in my field. So they knew that, okay, investing in me and trying to kind of ensure that I have all the resources I need on a tenure track position to be able to progress to an associate professor is there. So then they were very confident, okay, we can shortlist him and literally go to the extra mile of interviewing him to see if he meets the other criteria too as well. Because it's not just publication too, there's service and of course your teaching abilities too. But for this, I'm going to emphasize only the publication aspect. So just as I said, I mean, at the beginning that, of course, why do we even want to write? And why do we even want to even go through the review process? There are essentially two kinds of motivation based on what Mark said. You know, Mark was saying that we tend to publish either for altruistic reasons or altruism, then self-interest. So by altruism, what he was essentially trying to say is that you want to essentially contribute to work in your field. So you want to literally enhance knowledge in your field. So your goal is just advancement within your field. So when you do that, you are more like altruistic in nature, right? Because you want to bring about that communal collection of knowledge, and you understand that this knowledge is constantly going to be challenged, is going to be revised and expanded. Then, of course, based on this altruism motive, we know that essentially it's not like altruism and self-interest are mutually exclusive. They are not, because most researchers have both altruistic reasons and of course also for their self-interest. The self-interest is essentially you trying to kind of get the limelight on yourself. So your goal is not really that you want to advance knowledge, but you want people to know you as a scholar or as an individual, right? You want people to know that you know your stuff, right? So your goal is not really, I mean, let's say advancing your field, but if you want the limelight to be on you. But if you interview people or you talk to people who are publishing, you see that normally it's not mutually exclusive. Like they tend to have both altruistic reasons and of course, self-interest. So for instance, when I publish, I don't just want my name to be known in my field. I want my work also to advance my field, right? So in essence, like both for me are converging. You get there. But the beauty about it is that when you publish, it tends to come with either direct or indirect monetary rewards. So monetary rewards, a classic example is that when I go for tenure, right? When I go for tenure, meaning as soon as I get the tenure, what that comes with it is that my earning or my salary is going to go up. So that's what I mean by indirect monetary rewards, right? But if you don't publish, then you will not even be able to get the tenure. You know, like in academia, especially, let's say R1 schools. So R1 schools tend to emphasize research a lot. So that one you have to be hitting close to 7, 10, and 12, right? If it's R2, normally they will say 5, marks would be like maybe 7, right? And all these, you need them by essentially 5 or 6 years to be able to go for promotion, which is tenure when if it's academia, right? If it's a research, let's say institution too, of course, the more you publish, the more maybe they will see that you're advancing their goal and what they are doing. Then based on that, they will see how best to reward you for that. So we know that researchers yearn to, of course, seek recognition for their effort, which is self-interest. So after a successful publication or research, right? Research essentially, what is the final step? You finding the right journal. So after you have done your research, you have at least found what you want to publish or send across. You need to find the right journal. And when you're able to do that, it benefits, of course, you, the publisher, or you, the researcher, or you, the author. If you're unable to publish, then essentially what you have found may remain with you and people will not even see what you have discovered. So publication essentially enables researchers to share their thoughts and ideas with the rest of the world. And by so doing, they improve existing and prospective knowledge in the particular field. And there's this saying by Samuel Johnson, and of course, after this, I'm left with my last slide here. Like he said something in the 18th century. He was saying that the greatest part of a writer's time is spent reading. In order to write, a man will turn over half a library. This may sound over exaggeration, but what he was essentially trying to say is that as you go through the publication process as a researcher, it will, let's say, naturally increase your depth of knowledge as a researcher because you do a lot of reading and you bring these pieces together, synthesize it, and of course, do your analysis, then be able to come out with your publication. So in essence, you are going to benefit even if you don't ultimately even succeed in a peer review publication. But at least that process alone will add a lot of value to you. So the publication process helps researchers develop skills valued by future employers. And this is valued both in academia and, of course, the industry. So according to the National Association of Colleges and Employers, the top 5 skills demanded by hiring managers are you being able to work in teams, make decisions, communicate with others, plan, organize, and prioritize work, and 5, obtain and process information, right? So in essence, all that they are trying to say is that when you publish, you are going to develop these desirable skills, which will help you either you are seeking academia or even the industry, because you're able to make or take decisions with data, you're able to manipulate data to be able to communicate what the data is saying. And this skill cuts across whether it's in academia or the industry. So publication is really essential to your life if you want employers to take you serious. I mean, when you are seeking for a job. So this is where I'm going to end our presentation for today on the general importance of publication. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Romeo, for this very insightful talk. So we'll move on to identifying predatory journals from non-predatory journals. And we received this talk from Dr. Ellis Ejay Adams, an assistant professor of geography and environmental policy at University of Notre Dame. Dr. Adams, over to you.
Okay, thank you. All right, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so good morning. Francis, thanks for the invitation. It's a pleasure. When I was a student, I wasn't really part of this group, but it looks very vibrant, and I wish we had people talking to us about such important topics. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Notre Dame. Before that, I was at Georgia State. I finished my PhD at Michigan State around 2016. So Romeo, very interesting talk. I think it sets the stage well for mine. In our quest to publish, how do we fall prey to predatory journals? What do we look out for to identify predatory journals? Why do people publish in predatory journals? So I have 15 minutes is what I was given. So I will dive right to what do I want to cover. What is predatory publishing? What tactics do predatory journals or predatory publishers use? How do people fall prey? And what are the most important characteristics to identify or to help you decide when you have 2 journals? How do you know one is predatory or one is not? I must say that there are a lot of very under-resourced journals that might appear predatory but aren't, right? So sometimes it's not very easy to tell. And so there are some key things to pay attention to in order to be able to identify whether a journal is predatory or not. So predatory publishing isn't a trivial industry, right? It's huge, right? And over the years, it's grown a lot. Mostly, I had Romeo talk about publish or perish. There are drivers to why predatory publishing has a market, right? So in, I think 2015, there were over 15,000 predatory journals. Those who come up with these metrics will tell you that they know they are undercounted by probably even half. So they are not easy. Some are not very easy to fish out. They are under the radar, very nice website. They look very legit, but they are predatory, right? And in 2015, predatory publishing earned about $75 million. And I use this to set the stage that it's a huge industry that is driven by, the quest for profit. It's not really sort of the academic dimension, but wanting to prey on people to make money. So what is predatory publishing? It's funny that the term itself had existed for many years, but there was never an actual definition, even though people knew what it was, that if you're a predator or you are into predatory publishing, it's easy to know what you are about. It's not really academics, it's taking advantage of people. So this article came out of Nature just in 2019, where a group of academics came together to try to define what constitutes predatory publishing. So I just underlined a few of what they highlighted as the features of predatory publishing, as one that prioritizes self-interest at the expense of scholarship. So you compromise on scholarship for whatever reason, right? It is characterized by false and misleading information. It deviates from best editorial and publication practices. What are the best practices? That peer review is solid, that other experts are weighing in on the work to judge the merits of its contribution, things like that. That peer review isn't overnight, it takes time, that no one person reviews, multiple people review, that academics are given a chance to revise their work based on what reviewers say. So many standard, well-vetted practices that should guide publishing. And then over time, if you go online, there's so many articles where they attempt to tease out what actually constitutes predatory publishing. And the goal is to, again, highlight some of these things I already talked about as a way to define and guide people so they don't fall into this trap of predatory publishing. One thing to highlight here is that predatory journals are almost entirely after profit. So most of these are open access, right? And you pay a fee. Sometimes they lower the fees as a way to make it attractive. And I will get into why people fall for these kinds of tactics. Okay. So what's interesting is I'm an environmentalist, right? My area is geography and environmental policy. So predator-prey relationship is something I study. It's part of my disciplinary training. So whenever you have a predator, it can only survive when there is a prey, right? The predator feeds on the prey. So the question is, who is the prey? And if there isn't a prey, why would we call it predatory publishing? It wouldn't exist if there isn't a prey. So what groups of people constitute the prey here that predatory publishers and predatory journals are after? Very important is young scholars like yourself and me, right? Why are young scholars such a target? Because we want to make it. We want our Google Scholar indices to look like the seasoned scholars. We want our H indices to be high. We want to publish quickly so we can get on the job market, which is becoming ever very difficult to break in, especially tenure track positions, right? And so graduate students are especially another target too. Scientists from low and middle income countries, you see a lot of papers published in predatory journals will end up coming from developing countries. There's a reason why. You think the peer review takes so long. You have a quick, fast-track way. Microwave publication is what I call it. Put it in, a few minutes is out. It's really what the system aims to do. But I must also mention that there are seasoned scholars who also fall prey to predatory publishing. Maybe they want to be promoted quickly. I'm going up for tenure. I look at my CV. Maybe this year nothing is out. What journals can I send a paper to that might be published in 2 weeks, for example? So those are sort of the pressures are there. Publish or perish, promotional pressures. Sometimes it's just about how we want to be viewed. Romeo talked about reputation and what publishing does, right? And so if publishing is linked to reputation, then it's very easy to fall into the trap of predatory publishing because you want to make it, but you don't want to make it within the right amount of time. You want it very quickly. And that often pushes us into predatory publishing. So consequences at our level of scholarship or of career, I think one thing to keep in mind is that your scholarship is your intellectual property, okay? So when you fall prey to predatory publishing, it's not just that your paper is in the wrong journal. It's also that because it is predatory, it is not protected and someone could steal your idea. Okay, so I had a friend in Australia who submitted a paper to a predatory journal. He didn't know it was predatory, it was online, or they said it would publish in 2 weeks. He quickly wanted the paper out. The paper was rejected. But then he found that same paper, nothing changed, in another predatory journal. What that meant was that a reviewer stole that paper, told the journal to reject it, and then submitted it to another predatory journal. It's predatory. Editorial board are all fishy people. Nobody would take it on. So you lose your idea. So sometimes waiting longer to get an idea published is worth the time, because predatory publishing, you might end up losing the time, but also your scholarship and your intellectual property. Now you have nothing. Okay. And the job market is harder, but a paper under review at the right journal is still valuable, right? It's not published, but it still shows that you're making progress and you are advancing science in a way that makes you a scholar worth paying attention to. So let me get into the characteristics and how we spot them, right? First is very shoddy academic practices. Peer review is less rigorous. Sometimes no peer review actually comes as a promise that we'll just publish the paper as it comes. There are a lot of misleading claims. You go onto the journal website, first paragraph says we review in 2 weeks. The next paragraph, it says 4 weeks. Very conflicting information. It's one way to really tell that it's predatory. But there's also a lot of false claims about the metrics, the impact factor, right? Sometimes, predatory journals often do not have impact factor, or they make it up and put there. So the question is, are they indexed in other widely recognized indices, right? Like Web of Science, Google Scholar. Where do you find these kinds of articles? And then there's a lot of lack of transparency. Who sits on the editorial board, and they are making up scientists from Bangladesh, Pakistan, places that it's difficult to verify. So one thing to pay attention to always is look at the editorial board members. Are they having actual institutional emails? If the editor of a journal has an email that says yahoo.com, Google, Gmail, you should always be suspicious about that, because a top scholar should always be affiliated with an institution. Even if it's not a university, it has to be a research institution with its own website and with its own email extension that is .edu something. And it's a way to tell. Then you look at that also with the editorial board members. Okay. One other thing to pay attention to is aggressive solicitation. Sometimes the predator goes to the prey not to immediately attack, but to make itself attractive. Again, we're talking ecology here. So these come with emails, sometimes with a lot of errors. The font might look very weird font. You're like, who wrote this email? A lot of grammatical errors. Right away, you know it's a predatory solicitation. Sometimes it comes as a conference where they promise that your paper at that conference will be published in a conference proceeding. And the conference might be in somewhere nice, exotic, going to Hawaii, Paris. It's all fake, but it's very easy to fall into that trap. Okay. Another important thing I always pay attention to is any journal that asks that you submit your paper by email, very likely is predatory. There should always be a platform. There may be exceptions, but just keep in mind that as soon as you see that, it's a red sign. It's almost a signal that it could be predatory. Website, poorly designed, other things. So a few slides before I conclude. There are a lot of online resources that can help you spot a predatory journal. One is this BL's list. It's been taken down, unfortunately, as of, I think, 2017. Why did, it's a librarian who created this long list of journals he considered predatory. Why did they take it on? He couldn't deal with the lawsuits, right? That tells you that predatory journals are very aggressive. They have money, some of them, and they will take you on if you try to shame them online. So it's your decision to make, to not publish there. And in fact, I heard University of Michigan now in a tenure process. I'm going through tenure now, so I know what it means. universities are singling out predatory journals and forcing them out. They don't count for tenure anymore. Some like MDPI plus one, they're actually good journals, but not all universities will accept them because they just don't understand their model. Why 2 weeks is enough for a peer review and a publication? Too rapid. Too rapid means you compromise on the process. We all know it takes time to review. It takes time to revise. Okay. And then there are a lot of other resources. Some of them, it's like a checklist. Before you submit, check. What is the editorial board like? So you go through all of them and you make your own determination as to whether that journal constitutes a predatory enterprise or not. And then there are a lot of others, but they are available online. It's not hard, you know, so many of them that I just put on this slide. One, it's more manual, it's not automated. So you just do your own checklist. If a lot of the characteristics fall in the green, then you know that that is likely not predatory. The more you answer yeses to the red, no right policy stated on the website. You look at journal issue, they published like 5 articles last 2 months and there's no new article published. They are almost desperate for submissions. You know that there is a chance that that is predatory. So many of these are available online. I don't have to go through all of them. So I think to conclude, you know, we are all young scholars. It's understood or it's understandable that we all want to publish, but time is important. There are a lot of rejections from good journals, but rejections are part of the process, right? So don't let your fear of being rejected by a journal push you to a journal that is shoddy or less of a quality, because I think the damage is actually bigger, right? Keep that paper, take the reviewer comments, keep working at it. I have a paper I'm revising that's taking me longer to revise than it took me to write, but it's worth it in the end. It improves the paper, right? So again, I understand the challenges we are all facing as young scholars, but my advice is to try as much as possible to go for the top journals, or at the very least, journals that are credible, even if they don't have impact factors, because it's good for you, it's good for your own reputation, and it will help set you up to become a better scholar. So thanks for the opportunity to share, and good luck to you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ellis Adams. Thank you so much for this insightful talk once again. And so we are done with the first part of this workshop, and we would want to go into breakout rooms where we have discussions about publications, about research and all that. And these breakout rooms are much more specific, where you can ask questions with people in your field and have lengthy discussions. So the breakout rooms will last for roughly 40 minutes. So it's 11:31, around 12:11, thereabout. We'll close the breakout rooms and then come back. We have 3 breakout rooms, one for natural sciences, the other for social sciences, and the other for business. And so Dr. Felice Champon would moderate things for the natural sciences. Dr. Francis Tibo and Raza Kwame Jumo would be for the social sciences, and then Dr. Abuna Fusia Owusu would be for business. So kindly join, the breakout rooms will pop up. Kindly join one of them and then enjoy the discussions, and then we'll meet back here for the last session for a general discussion amongst ourselves. So thank you so much. Blessed, has it popped up?
I believe so.
Yeah, it's popped up.
Okay. Yeah, that's not popped up. Why hasn't it popped up?
Edwin, since you're a host, you may want to click breakout rooms, then it will show on your screen and then you can see it.
Yeah, I've seen it. Thank you.
Adelaide, would you be joining a breakout room, or you'll be here to direct people?
I can stay here to direct people. I'm actually letting people into the meeting now.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Godwin, I see that you just joined. So we are in breakout rooms. We have 3 breakout rooms: business and finance, social sciences and humanities, and applied and natural science.
I'm thinking of someone in Africa.
Mhm.
Yeah. Is she Marian or no?
No.
Anyway, good to meet you.
Yeah, good to meet you too.
And thanks for agreeing to do this.
Oh man, it's my pleasure. And guys, it's not just me going to do this. We have Francis here, we have Juliet here, we have other people that's going to help. So, I mean, I'll do my best, and then let's see how far we can get.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. So without wasting much time, all of you, welcome to the Natural Science and Applied Sciences section of this workshop. Our main speaker in quote, he's not going to do all the talking, but let me say the main speaker here is Dr. Felix Acheampong. He is currently a senior scientist at mass spectrometry at Verve Therapeutics. Right. I hope I got it right, Felix.
You did.
Yeah, he has 5 years of experience in the pharma and biotech field, and he has worked on multiple drug modalities. Prior to Verve, he contributed to discovery and development programs at Novartis, isolating and characterizing neutral products using high-resolution mass spectrometry. So please, if you don't get it, it's fine. He's a biotech guy. He did biology in, I hope I'm right, biology in KNUST, and then came over to do his master's and PhD. So, Dr. Acheampong, over to you.
Okay. I hope you can all hear me well.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let's start. So my job here today is to basically take us through what the submission process looks like. And that is what we are going to discuss. It's not more of like me presenting, but it's more we sharing ideas and how best we can help each other. And what I want to advise is that it doesn't end here. We can still have conversations once we are done from the session here. And then I know Francis in academia. I'm not sure what Julius does right now, but I'm in the pharma industry, and it's not just talking about publication, but after school, it also counts. We can also talk about that. I mean, after here, we can also talk about the green card process and everything, which I know most of us will need. We can also talk about that too. So it's a win-win situation for everybody. But today, my job here is to just walk us through how the submission process will look like. And my work will be made easy because I have people to help here. So first, I mean, we've had very great talk from Dr. Romeo and then Dr. Ellis. Dr. Romeo touched about finding the right journal. And then Dr. Ellis has talked a lot about identifying predatory journals. And so I'm not going to touch too much about what they talked about, but what I want us to do is to demonstrate a few things here. So I'm going to share my screen. And then we can get online and do a few things. So can everybody see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. So now that's my login stuff. But first of all, I'm going to use Elsevier as an example. And there are a lot of journals that you can use. It has almost the same components, but I like Elsevier because it's simple and it's straightforward. So I'll start, first of all, is how do we identify the right journal? You know, we have different fields.
in the natural sciences, in applied sciences, we have different fields. And so how do you identify the right field for you? So the first thing I want us to look at is the scientific journal ranking, which is based on the Scimago Journal and Country rank. This is one of the best sites that you can ever have. You come here, and then it gives you the journal names. It gives you the countries that you can, like, these journals are from. And then it shows you what are the top ranked journals and what are the low ranked journals. So it changes year by year. So if you look at 2021, you see that CAE, Cancer Research for Clinicians, is the top. If we go back to 2020, they still maintain the spot as the top most ranked journal, you know. So you can see CAE is still the topmost ranked journal. And so this is one of the very good sites that you can use to just direct, narrow up your site for the journals that you want to target. For me, I'll always tell you, dream big. Don't dream small, but dream big. Dream about the big journals. I mean, you might not be able to submit to CAE now, but something close. Just dream big. Dream big about what journal I want to share my paper in. Because what is important about the journals is that they have impact factors. So if you look at the SGR score here, okay, the SGR score, it's more like an impact factor. So what's an impact factor? So within a year, people cite articles within the journal. And so what they do is that they pick the articles, the average articles that have been cited more frequently, and then they compare it among the different journals, and then they rank them and give them a score. And that is what we call the impact factor. What impact is the journal making in the field that is being published? How many people are reading the articles? How many people are citing the articles? You know, how many people are sharing the articles? And that becomes what we call the impact factor. So one thing you need to do is find the right website to find the right type of journal. So if I come here, for me, if I'm going to publish, I have a background in biochemistry. I also now work with drug discovery. I do a lot of drug discovery in Cambridge right now. So if I'm going to publish a paper for my company, I can publish in CAE, okay? I can publish in Nature Molecular Cell Biology from my biochemistry background, but I can't publish in economics because I know nothing about economics. Okay, so economics will not be one of the journals I'm going to target. Now, Nature reviews for materials, I can also target Nature review if I'm writing a review article. I can also target that. And so I have a lot of options to pick out from based on what I want to do. So if I'm going for a review paper, I want to publish a review paper. First, I'm going to target Nature reviews, okay? And recently, a colleague published in Nature reviews, which was a great achievement. And that is what you want to dream about. Don't dream small. And so find the right journal that fits your interest. Now, secondly, if I'm going to publish a research article, okay, in biochemistry, I'm going to target Nature reviews, okay? In molecular and cell biology, that's what I'm going to target, because that will fit into a typical biochemistry article. And so that's what I'm going to target secondly. But if I'm somebody like Francis or Juliet, I know Juliet has some engineering background, I'm not so sure, but I know she has engineering background. And then Francis he has a mathematics background. He can go through the economics side. He can find his way around. So if I'm somebody like Francis, then maybe if he's interested in publishing economics, then this is the article he's going to target because it has a very high impact factor. And then it's a very good article as well. It's not predatory. These articles that you see, especially in the SGR, most of them are non-predatory articles, but they are very good articles that have been in the system for a very long time and they have their credibility. So they're not going to pressure you, send you fake emails. They can verify the editorial board. Their emails are very good. You can find that when you get in there, you can verify everything for yourself, and then you can tell these guys are non-predatory. So the SGR is just one search tool that you can use. You can use for yourself to find whether you can narrow down to find the right journal for yourself or not. Now, the second one I want us to talk about is what we call the Scopus. Okay, Scopus is more of something from Elsevier. So if you type Scopus, okay, so Scopus, and then you just go to their website, there's a lot of information for you to use. Okay, so you go out there and then you can check for what an open, if you want to have open access article or have any other kind of article or whatever that you want to do, you can get the Scopus and then you can find the right type of article that you want to publish in. So Scopus is another website. The third one I want to talk about is they call it, the abbreviation is DOAJ. So let's get on the website. So the third one,
for instance, Journal of Finance, Financial Economics. You see something of Journal of Finance and Economics, or Journal of Finance Econometrics, or you see something like some keywords, but they are a little bit off. So if you are not careful, you can easily fall prey to these journal requests. And they oftentimes, you sometimes wonder, how did they come across your email? First of all, it's easy to come across people's emails. Aside that, we all submit to conferences. So then they see your paper. So you realize that they'll send you an email which would say they're inviting you to publish or to consider submitting your paper for publication in our journal, and they'll list the title of your paper. So it's easy for them to come across papers, because we are all submitting to conferences and to other journals as well. So Ellis did talk about the bills list. There's also, so the bills list considered, which right now is defunct. So it's considered a listed predatory journals. But the Directory of Open Access Journals actually lists legitimate journals instead. So instead of listing the predatory ones, it's list the non-predatory journals. And the other thing is think, check before you submit. So basically, do your research or do your homework. So when you hear of a journal, most of us do have co-authors. We all have people that we are doing research with. Sometimes mention the journal, ask if people have heard about it. Sometimes these journals, most of the times, these predatory journals are journals people haven't heard about. So you can always ask your co-author, or you can ask, do your research. Just a Google search, try to find out whether you can find the editor, whether you can find the editorial board, whether the review process, how long it takes, whether they are asking for fee outright. There are these petty things that you need to be mindful of. So think, check, submit is basically you taking your time to do your research and make sure this is a target journal for you.
Hi, Abina.
Yes.
Please, were you able to record? Would you be able to record? I'm listening.
So let me see. Yes, I think, yeah.
I think
I'm
recording.
I'm recording it.
Okay,
So I
great.
think it's already been recorded. That's
Right.
so
It's
yeah.
because
Right.
I am here. So once I leave, it will stop. So if
Okay,
you can
okay,
record-
sure.
Yeah, thank
Okay,
you.
sure, Blazer. So I'm recording it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So here's a top, I just took this from the ABS journal ranking.
and so that will be the first item I want us to talk about. Now, after finding the right type of journal, Dr. Ellis talked a lot about checking whether the article is predatory or non-predatory. And so I think he has so much ideas on that. And then I think the video is being recorded and it will be made available to all of us. If you don't get it, go back again and then make sure the journals that you're picking are not predatory journals, but they are authentic journals that can be verified, and then resort to that and then do justice to it. Now, the next thing I want us to do is I want us to get actually into how we can go around the publication process. Okay.
Dr. Felix,
Yes, go ahead.
please, would you be able to record your session?
I think somebody's recording. I heard.
Well, it's actually me. This is like the generic recordings. If you can just record your session.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm recording it.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
Okay, because I heard that. Thank you. The next one I want us to talk about is submitting a paper. And here I want us to use the Elsevier website because it's easy to navigate and everything. And I hope everybody can see my screen okay. Can you all see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So first is to publish. One advice is that prepare yourself, mentally prepare yourself, emotionally prepare yourself. And then physically, as to doing the work in the lab, prepare yourself as well. So first, prepare yourself. It's not here, but that is what you need. Prepare yourself before you prepare to like submit an article for publication. Prepare yourself. You need a mental preparation. You need emotional preparation. You need a physical preparation as well. Why do I say this? Because the article can be accepted or rejected. And one thing I know we all don't want is rejection, but it's part of the game. Rejection does not mean the article that you have is not good. Rejection does not mean that you yourself are not good. Rejection does not mean that the lab that you are and then the work that you do is bad. It doesn't mean so. It means it didn't meet a journal's preference or criteria or rules, and therefore they couldn't accept it. But there can be other good journal equally good as them, and then you can also target as well. And so that is why mental, physical, and emotional preparation is important, so that you don't feel that you are a loser or you are just burying your head in the sand. No, not that. But prepare yourself that someone is ready to accept, someone is also ready not to accept. Okay, and so prepare yourself. Now we've talked about finding the right journal. So on this Elsevier website, now you go to, the first step to do is to use what we call the journal finder. Is found on the Elsevier website, and it can be added to the ones that we have already talked about so far. If I click on this link, okay, I come to what we call find journals. Okay, now here it makes it more specific for you, for what you want to put in here. It will ask you for the paper title. It will ask you for paper abstract. It also will ask you for keywords. Okay, and then it will ask you for the research field. If you click on the drop down, it will show you different fields. So if I'm going to publish something in biochemistry, then I'm just going to search or select that field. If I want to broaden my scope, then I'll also add pharmacology, toxicology, pharmaceutics. That's what I do now. Okay, and then now what it needs is put in an abstract, put in a title. Okay, put in a keyword. Okay, once you do that, and then you click on the find journal button here. Okay, it's going to bring you different type of journals based on what you have given them, information that you have fed the program with. It's going to give you journals that aligns with your field. And I think it's one of the smartest idea that the journal finder brings to Elsevier, because many people, or when we are starting, if, for example, when I started, my advisor will ask me, find some journals that we can target, okay? But I'm not experienced in the field. And so how do I go about it? Okay, I'm just going to do a wild search on a website or talk to a senior colleague. Maybe he might not work in the same field that I am working. Maybe he might not publish the papers that I want to publish, or the interesting papers I want to publish. And so he cannot even guide me well. Okay, but therefore, how do I get in? And so the first thing is to do is know what you want, know the fields that you want to target, know the area that you are working in, as we talked about earlier. And then I like Elsevier. It will once you put in your information, it will bring you a lot of journals that aligns with whatever you want to achieve. And then select at least 5 or 6 of them, then prepare towards them. If you don't find your interest in Elsevier, go to SGR, okay, or go to DOAJ. You'll find what aligns with your field of interest. Today, I'm not going to put anything in Elsevier for us to look at what will come out. So, but just take note that the journal finder is a good tool for you to find articles that aligns with your research interest, and therefore you can use the site. So that will be the first step that I want us to talk about, finding the right journal. So once we find the right journal, now the journal, you found the right journal. Every journal has rules and regulations, or it will give you the processes in which you can submit an article. So the second thing I want us to do, or I want us to talk about, is to talk about how to prepare our paper for submission. And so there's a lot of guidelines. But if I come here, it tells you like get published quick guide. There's a quick guide. It also tells you understanding the publishing process. Okay, so there's 2 of them. So now if I click on this link, it takes me here. So everything that I need to know, okay, is in this book, or is in this pamphlets that anything I need is in here. So it tells you about getting started, introduction, getting published, getting notice, tracking your impact, and why publish with Elsevier, and then other useful links. So everything that you need to know is in here. Okay. So first, every paper will start with a title, then the authors will come in, then it will take you to the abstract, and then sometimes graphical abstracts. It will take you to the graphical abstract as well. Then from there, you're going to introduction, then your methods, and then the other parts will also keep coming. So with Elsevier, and then with any other journal that is a very good journal, they have these books or these pamphlets that can help you navigate your way around. Now, first, the first thing is that it's going to ask you for the title of your paper, and every paper needs a title. Okay, so you have to give your paper a title. They need that. And then once you get that title, it will ask you about the authors. Okay, now there's a first author, the one that has done the main work, the one that has written the paper, the one that is circulating around for review. Then there's a co-author as well. The co-author at times can be, the person can be from your lab, or he can be from another institution. So a co-author is somebody who equally contributes to the research. Okay, so there's a first author, there's also a second author or a co-author, then there's a third, or it can also be another co-author. So the authorship is important. That's where at times there's a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to publishing an article. If you need to assign somebody as a co-author, the co-author should equally contribute to the research. So if there's a design of the research, if there is a writing of the paper, if there is doing of the work in the lab and everything, the co-author should equally contribute as the first author, okay? And then that person can be assigned as a co-author. Then there's a corresponding author as well. Other people come in between, there's the corresponding author. So the corresponding author is just the correspondence, the one whose email every message or every question will be directed to. There's also that correspondence author. So he corresponds for the team. And so you need that as well. And so authorship is important. If you do the work and you are the first author and there's a co-author, you don't select co-author because at times your advisor is asking you to suggest that, oh, this person can be a good co-author for you. No, the person should equally contribute to the work. And so you will know what you that did the work, you know, your advisor will know, and then the ones on the paper will know this is a co-author, so the person gets on the paper. Okay, and so it brings a lot of confusion when it comes to publishing the paper. When it gets to that co-authorship, it's a serious matter. So the second, the co-authorship, make sure the person contributes well to the research, and then the person will merit the level to be a co-author on that paper. So that's all about authorship. So once you have your title, your authors, and then it tells you you identify the institution, where they come from, you put everything on the paper. And then now we are getting into where we are going to write an abstract, okay? We are writing an abstract. And then, so Elsevier makes everything simple. So this is the main thing that I want us to go through. So you need a title. You are making an advert for your paper, so you need a catchy title, okay? That will fit into the Elsevier types of titling. So you need a title. Then you talk about authorship. That's where we've talked about the first author, the co-authors, and then the corresponding author. So you need that. Then you come to the keywords. Most journals will require at least 5, and some of them might require more, maybe 6. So you need the keywords. And then, so keywords are, at times it's difficult to identify what a keyword would be, okay? Because people find it difficult, what would my keyword be, okay? So any word that is relevant to the work, okay, that you are presenting, and then that will capture your research effectively. That's what will be your keyword, okay? The keyword should be very relevant to whatever you are writing, and it should capture the research effectively, and that's what we call a keyword. Some people require 5, others 6, and so you put in your keywords. And then we come to what we call the graphical abstract. So we come to the abstract first. So a summary of your work, people at least say 300 words, some say 250 words. So that is, we come to the abstractness, you write your abstract. But in Elsevier, they require what we call the graphical abstract. So the graphical abstract is nothing but you are summarizing your key findings, okay, in a form of a graphical image. And that is what we call the graphical abstract. And so it's more of an imagination thing that I'm trying to use an image or a picture to communicate my key findings that I found in my study. And that is what we call the graphical abstract. Now, after the graphical abstract, we are delving right into the introduction, okay? Where you are talking about the significance of your project, and then you are bringing about your aim, okay? You're bringing about the aim of the work, or the objective of the work. So that is your introduction. So here you do some literature review in the introduction. And so you review articles that are very important to whatever you are writing, okay? So if I'm writing on malaria, okay, then I'm looking for articles that aligns with malaria, but I won't go pick any article that is in economics, okay? It doesn't fit into my introduction, or it doesn't fit into the work that I want to talk about. So the introduction, and then in the introduction, you're going to cite various articles. And we are going to talk about citation. When I'm done walking you through this, we talk about citation, where we are going to use citation tools or softwares to help us to do the citation. So now, once you're done with the introduction, we now walk straight to the methods, okay? The methods or the procedures that were relevant to the work, the ones that you use, you summarize them nicely in the methods. And Elsevier spells everything out clearly for you. And then after the methods, now you talk about the results. What did you find when you did the experiment? So that would be the results. You summarize it very nicely. And then so the results is basically the high and low of your data that you have already accumulated, graphs, figures, whatever that you have. You are just talking about the high point and the low point of whatever, and that will be your result. The next, Elsevier will combine discussions with conclusions, okay? So it's going to combine discussion with conclusion. Other articles will separate discussion and conclusion, okay? But Elsevier will bring the discussion and conclusion together. What are the key points? What did you find? What are the results? How do you discuss your results? How does it compare to existing data? How does it compare to existing research? So you are going to make that conclusion, and then you are going to make that argument, and then at the end of the day, you conclude. What was the objective that you set for yourself, research in the introduction, okay? And then you conclude based on the objectives that you have set for yourself, okay? Then next, we bring the acknowledgement. If you had funding from, say, NIH, NSF, and all these kind of agents, or maybe a governmental agency, just acknowledge them, okay? It's very important. You acknowledge them on there. And then at times too, there are other people that make significant contribution to the work, but they cannot be authors on a paper. It's also important to acknowledge them as well. So it's also important to acknowledge people that made significant contribution to your research, but cannot merit a part to be an author of it. So that will be the acknowledgement. Then now we are getting to the references. So the references, that's where we are going to talk a lot about citation managers. Mendeley would be one of them. And then when you get to Elsevier, they have, they have a free Mendeley that you can use to help you to do your research, okay? So once you have your references, you can add more data to your research, what we call the supplemental or supplementary information. You can also add that to your research. So if there's other data that you can really, because of the lack of space or based on the general criteria, you cannot add other part of the data to it. You just add it as a supplemental, okay? So that is adding additional data to the research. And then they have a way of publishing that as well together with your paper. And so basically, this will be the process that you have to go through when you are submitting a paper to Elsevier. Other journals will have a similar format. You have a similar format, but at times they try to break things differently to make it look different. And the key thing here is that every journal will have a different way of arranging the data, the different way of formatting. Formatting is very important. Formatting is one key thing that distinguishes one journal from the next. And also the style of referencing will distinguish one journal from another journal. So it's important that you pay close attention to the formatting, okay? The word, the type of maybe romance, or they are using in Book Antiqua, whatever they are using, you need to pay attention to that. So just play according to what rules that they have stipulated, and then you should be fine in drafting your first article, circulating around for review, and then finally trying to submit it for publication. And so pay attention to the formatting. The references styles are always different. So the in-text references, some will use numbers, some will use actually the name, and if there are more authors, etal, and then the year. Some will use alphabet as well, okay? And then when they come to the full referencing, they have a way of also doing it. So it's important that you pay close attention to it, because if you don't do that, and then you get a comment, you might spend a lot of time trying to fix something that you could have easily done before submitting the paper, okay? So you need to pay close attention to the style of referencing that the journal recommends. That is important, okay? So now that will be a typical submission process. So after that, after preparing your paper for submission, what will be the next step? The next step is to submit it and then receive a revision. I've been a reviewer for some few journals, and when you send the article out for review, there will be one reviewer that knows a lot about the field. There's another reviewer that is in between. There's another reviewer who is very new to the field, okay? At times, they don't have so much knowledge in the field that you are in. And so when you submit the article, these people will review. Basically, at times, we have 3 reviewers reviewing it. At times, it can be 4. And then if it's a very high impact journal, it can be 5 at times. You can have 5 people reviewing an article. And then you definitely will get one person that knows a lot about the field who is going to actually pick you apart on your research. He will pick you apart on the research. There will be another person who doesn't know a lot about the field, but all that he needs to do is find out the guide for how to write an article in Elsevier, and then he's just going to look out for the formatting and then the punctuation and everything. And that is what he's going to comment about, because he doesn't have so much knowledge in the field. And then there's the person in between. He's just going to look at your formatting skills and everything and make sure it aligns with what the Elsevier journal requires. And then he can question you back. And so that is when it becomes, the revision is where you get comments that you think, oh, I've already said this in there, but it's not the way they require you to say it. So you have to say it the way they require you to say it, so that it looks like the journals that they've already published already. And so the next, after working through, taking it to your advisors for review, taking it to your colleagues, co-authors to look through, and all people on the author to look through. After doing that, you submit and then you wait. At times it can take longer. At times it can be short. The predatory journals, most of them will give you a short return time, and all that they care about is their money. They don't care whether you have plagiarized. They don't care the formatting. They don't care about anything. All that, when they receive the money, they publish your paper for you, and then that is where you can lose a lot of information if you're not careful and then you don't select the right type of journal. Now, the last thing is, well, how do you track the status of your paper? You have reviewed, you have revised the paper, you have answers, you have communicated back to the reviewers. And so the next thing is to just track the status. Have they fully accepted it for publication, or is still hanging in the balance? And so that will be the next step. Just wait for them, and then know what the next step will be. Okay, so you just track the paper. Now, the last thing I want us to talk here is about sharing and promoting an article. Most of us don't do well in doing this. We don't like to attend conferences. We don't want to share in our local area or community where there are high school students who want to learn more about our research. We don't also share with them. We don't promote the article. But it is your duty and job to promote the article. It's very important that when you get the opportunity, just go for a conference. If it's inland, if it's in the US, do it. If it's international, do it. Because at the end of the day, if you find a conference that publishes abstract, it gives you a good opportunity for citation as well, okay? And so the next, after doing all that and doing the hard work, is to share and promote your research, okay? So that will be it. And here, if I click on this link, they tell you a lot of opportunities how to share your research. So one, as I talked about at a conference, in a classroom teaching, when you are submitting a grant application, and then that work still aligns with the published paper, you should also cite your work with your colleagues. And then at times, social media is also important, because especially LinkedIn, I've seen people like publishing the article and then sharing it on there. It's also an important platform to share. That's the only social media that I use. I don't know about Facebook and Twitter. I don't know about them, but I know LinkedIn, you can share your articles on there that people can also read. And if they are in your field and then they have a future paper to publish, it's possible that they can cite your paper as well. And citation is very important. As Dr. Ellis and Dr. Romeo talked about, when you are rising to the rank, especially in academia, they will look at all the citations and everything. And even in industry, when you're also going for promotion, they look at what contributions have you made. If you have published an article, is it being cited or is just alone standing in there? They also look at that. So citation is very, very important as a researcher, whether you're in industry or in academia. And so promote your research that you can get the citations that you have to get in order to move you to the next level. Okay, so that will be my talk on that. And then I think the last section that I want us to talk about, and then the platform is open for questions. I don't have all the answers. And if you have anything just to add to it for all of us to learn, it's very and highly welcome. And so the next and then last thing I want us to talk about is the citation manager. And I know most institutions have it. Our libraries do have it, okay? The libraries that is in our schools, they do have it. And so that it shouldn't be a problem. I think when I was doing my PhD thesis, I use Mendeley or RefWorks. I think we have one or the other. So either Mendeley or RefWorks. And then why would you use one over the other? If your school doesn't have the options, then unfortunately you are stuck with one. Or if you want to also like buy it for your own self, maybe for your thesis, and afterwards just close out the subscription, that should be fine as well. But why would you choose one citation manager or the other if you have the options? I mean, if you have Mendeley allows you to organize and upload documents that you already have on your hard drive. That means if I've uploaded or I've downloaded some documents in the past and I want to use them now, I want to cite them now, you can add them to your citation manager in Mendeley. So that's a good software. And then if you want to connect with your peers and then showcase your publication and then scholarly impact, Mendeley is also another good platform as well. And then if you prefer an app-based manager, that is, if you want your data on your hard drive, you want to sync it to the Mendeley server, then Mendeley will, or you want to sync it to the citation manager server, Mendeley is one good software or tool that you can use. Now there's also EndNote, RefWorks and EndNote, and then at times there's also Zotero. Zotero is another thing, and then EndNote is another thing. On EndNote, I think when I was in tech, I had the opportunity to use EndNote, and I'm not skilled in all of them. As I get it, I find my way around and I just use them. And so I didn't publish so many papers, and so I don't have too many experiences using EndNote and then other sites. But Mendeley, I think Mendeley is just a general thing everybody relies on to do their research. So there's also EndNote, and then you can get a basic feature or the advanced feature of EndNote, and then you can use that as well. And then RefWorks is somehow similar to Mendeley, but the apps or the softwares or the tools are different. And then it does what Mendeley can do. Zotero, I've had people use it, but I never had the opportunity to use Zotero. So Zotero can be another good citation manager that you can use for your research works. And so on this note, I think that will be my talk for today. And then the floor is very open for discussions. And Francis, Juliet, and any other senior colleague in here, please, if there's something I left that's critical, you can add it and then we can all learn. Thank you.
Dr. Acheampong, thank you very much. We had a good talk from you. We've had a lot of information. However, our breakout room time is up.
Oh, okay.
So I would recommend that all questions you have, please, you're going to have a big Q&A session. Throw your questions out there. Dr. Acheampong will be there. We'll have Dr. Razak, and I think Dr. Juliet Ohiming has also agreed to be on the panel. So feel free, throw out your questions, and you have 3 well-versed panelists to answer your questions. So let's meet again in the main session. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think almost everyone is here. Welcome back, everyone. We had a very nice and insightful session in ours, and hopefully yours was also very, very insightful. So we'd want to have an open discussion for the next 45 minutes, roughly 45 minutes up to 1 p.m. Eastern time. And so for this, it's very open. When you raise up your hands, or you can type your question in the chat, and then I would read it to the hearing of our moderators. And then if you have a question, you could also raise up your hand if you want to voice it or verbalize it, which is very helpful for our moderators to also look at it. And Blessed, can you kindly spotlight, I don't know if spotlight our speakers?
Yes,
So that
I would do that. Thank you.
okay. So the floor is open. If you have any questions that came out and any matters arising that you feel it is necessary for all of us to know from your various groups, it will be very helpful. Let me start off by asking my question to how to deal with rejections. So for our resource personals, what is the general advice? Because rejections could sometimes be emotional. Like you've put a lot of effort in writing a paper, you submit it to a journal, and for one reason or the other, you are rejected. What are some useful and constructive ways that a young and up-and-coming scholar can deal with rejections when they are rejected?
Okay. Hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. This is Juliet. So I always say or advise people to categorize rejection. Okay, rejection in any field, in this case, in terms of publication, right? Characterize it. What does this rejection mean? Does it mean I need to do better? Does it mean, I didn't meet it? Or does it mean really this editor or this reviewers didn't get what I was trying to communicate and I need to communicate it better? Sometimes you can be rejected for no concrete reasons. Okay, so the have two characterizations or two categories for the rejection that you get. Is it because I didn't do something better and I have constructive criticisms that I can work on to improve the paper that I have? Or two, is it really unexplained rejection that I don't really see what the reviewers are trying to say or what the editor is looking for? And in that case, I don't even see how I can improve my paper and I just have to submit it to another journal. Do you get it? So it's two things. And for me, I realized that reviewers always have something that you can take to improve your paper. And then sometimes there is miscommunication. And so the first day you feel down and all of that, but always ask yourself, okay, always look at it in a picture that this is just an opportunity for me to improve my paper. This is an opportunity for me to improve my article. And so I'm going to look at these comments and see what are the critical ones, especially the ones that, cut across all the reviewers. If you have 3 reviewers and all 3 reviewers are saying one thing, or there is one thing that is common among all 3 of them, then it means that thing is something you need to correct, or that is something that you need to work on. But if somebody is talking about grammar and another person is talking about maybe a method section and all of that, then you look at it, differently. Another thing to also always remember is you are a young researcher. You don't know everything, or you're just starting. So when you are rejected, it doesn't mean the end of the world. Okay, you're not a professor. Even professors get their papers rejected. And so always remember that you just started, you're a young researcher and you don't know everything and you are just getting better by the day. So when you have that mindset, I think it will help with dealing with the rejection. And also always know that even top professors also get rejected. And your paper can be rejected by a journal and even accepted by a better journal without even having to do much about it. I've experienced that I had a paper rejected in a journal that the impact factor was like 4 point something. And when my advisor and I looked at the comments, they were not really constructive. Someone says, you are writing more scholastically than academically. And I'm like, what does that mean? You know, they were not constructive. And so we just decided, okay, let's submit to Science of Total Environment. And Science of Total Environment is way higher up than that journal that rejected me. And we were accepted in Science of Total Environment. So don't take it personal, just categorize it. Ask yourself, is there something I need to do to improve this? Or do I just have to move on, you know, to the next journal and then just deal with it? And always remember that you're just starting out. You get better by the day. Thanks.
To add to what Juliet just said, there are reasons why a journal will reject a paper. Some of them, it could be, or like she rightly said, it's not that your paper does not add or contribute to the knowledge in the field, but just because you're overwhelmed with the submissions that came. Some of them have up to probably 15 articles published, and like they have about 30 good articles. The question is, they only have 15 options to choose from. So even though yours is a great paper, they just rejected it because it couldn't meet their criteria on the number of publications they need. So it gives you a step ahead or a step further to look for other journals. So if you have this in mind, just listen carefully to the critique. It is just about flimsy excuses. Just get to know that your paper is a good paper, but just that it didn't fit with the number. And like she said, our professor once told us, she got a paper that was published in the top tier journal, even though a middle tier journal rejected that paper. So that is always something to look at.
Thank you so much. Any other person, before I call Samuel Techi, any other comment on rejections? Okay, so Samuel Techi, you can ask your question.
Okay, thank you very much, the panel, for all the information you've shared with us. My question is, we are talking about rejection. I want to know if you have a paper and then there is a high-profile professor or a high-profile, let's say, individual, maybe from an institution, a research center, on the paper. Does it influence the decision of the journal?
So I wanted to take a stab at it. Normally it doesn't. You know why? Because the very good peer-reviewed journals always will remove all the names before they send the article out for review. You get it here. And also the editors of the top journals also will not even look at the name because they will just make sure that it meets their criteria what they tend to publish in their journal. So in essence, the big name is going to help you do a good job, but the name is not necessarily going to get you in the door, right? Because all the top journals will ensure that even the names are not even on it. So even the reviewers wouldn't even know those who wrote the papers, right? So the review need blind, and based on the quality of the work that you guys have written, then they will accept it. But normally a big name will make sure you do a good work. So the quality will still help you, but the name will directly do that, not just the name only, flashing it on it. Yeah.
Romy, I think I would like to add a little caveat there. That is, there are some journals that do single blind, not double blind.
Okay.
So if it's double blind, then the journal, the editors, the reviewers will not know who wrote these papers. But if it's single blind, then they will know. And sometimes they say it influences. I don't have the evidence, but you know, there's just this conspiracy out there. But one thing I know it can influence is citations. When the paper is already published and you have a big name on it, chances are people are going to trust the paper more and are going to cite it more. But in terms of whether it increases the chances of not being rejected, if it's a single blind paper, it can, but we don't know how much of an impact it is.
Yeah. So I'm not an expert in this, but I would like to contribute that citations is very important. I think I was working with my advisor on that paper and he was like, looking at these kinds of citations, this person did a good job, even though my advisor had just come through the paper, looking at the kind of citations that were in there. And my advisor was like, when he reads the paper, he knows that because of some fields are so small, he knows that this person wrote it or that person wrote it, because or it's from this ideological point of view or it's from that ideological point of view. And so when an expert is on it, the way the research questions and the hypothesis will be framed, it gives the paper a certain kind of leverage. But just as Dr. Romeo said, leverage in terms of the quality of the work, but in terms of who you know and all those things, I don't think it would get there. Yeah.
Yeah, so let me add something by speaking on the negative side, because some people have the notion that if there's a big name on the paper, it increases your chances of being accepted, being published, being cited. So what some do is they do the work and then they look for a big person. It's like, oh, let me add this big person's name to it. Just the name. The person didn't really contribute, but I want to bank on his or her credibility to increase the potency of my paper. Yes, you can get away with this if it is those predatory journals. But if you go to a top journal and you just add somebody's name when the person didn't contribute, and you find out, the end result is very devastating. You might think articles or maybe review process are double-blinded, but the community is very small for every academic field. Editors in one journal may be reviewers in another journal, right? Associate editors might be senior editors somewhere else. So if you do something that goes against your integrity in one journal, it can have a huge rippling effect that you might even be banned from certain journals. And imagine if your whole work or job depends on your research, and now you cannot publish in certain places, then you know how much you've destroyed your reputation. So let us not fall into the danger of, oh, this big person can improve my chances, so let me just put his name there. I've experienced that before I came to the US. I wasn't really good in research, but I saw that practice being done. You do it and then you add, oh, this person was my advisor, so let me add his name, just add his name as a sign of respect. No, it is not good when it comes to academic integrity.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other contributions or any other question? Joseph.
Sorry, I joined the meeting late. So first of all, I want to know if the recorded session for both the general meeting and the breakout session will be available.
Yes, it will be available after the meeting. We'll process the videos and we will upload them onto our website. So please do want to check our website, Facebook, and I'm sure you get access to them.
And also, I just want to know a little bit about the publication fee. I'm sure maybe you might have thought about it, but when are you supposed to do the payment of the fee? Is it after the reviews and everything has been accepted or before you submit? And also, can something be done about it, like maybe a waiver of the publication fee or something?
Okay, let me take this question. So Joseph, basically there are two routes. We have open access publications and paid publications. When I say paid, I mean those who want to access the paper. So publishers, this is a huge debate. Publishers don't really do much work. They just help you to get your work out there, right? But they incur some costs in the administrative part of the publishing process. That is setting up the website, setting up the acceptance, the review process. If they have to put a PDF out there or maybe print a copy, these are all administrative costs. So how do they recoup those costs? As well as it's a business, so they also want to make profit. So they have two models. One is either the author pays for the cost or the audience pays for the cost. So if you're asking them to waive it off, then the question is, who is going to pay for it? So for journals, some are strictly open access and some are strictly paid access. Some do try to do a mixture. So when you submit, they'll ask you, do you want it to be open access? This is the price you pay, or do you want it to paid access? And then that will be free for you. So I haven't really experienced where there's a process you can ask them to waive it for you. It is up to you. If you choose a journal, you have to know whether you have to make the payments or your article will be behind the paywall and people who have to read it will rather make the payment. I hope I've addressed the question properly, Joseph.
Follow-up question to the submission you just gave. So in case people pay, will you receive part of the payment or it all goes to the publishing company?
Yeah, you don't get anything. Authors don't get anything.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the debate now. We do all the work. Even if when it comes to review editors, they're all researchers. They don't work for the publishing firm, right? These are all, and it's part of, I don't know about industry, but for academicians, it's part of our duty to serve as reviewers, to serve as editors. You don't get paid for it. It's part of the job. So any money that comes out of the publication goes to the publishers. That's the publishing house. If it is a book, then you get, what do you call it, royalties. I don't know how much royalties is, but for research articles, you don't get anything.
Thank you. Interesting.
So I wanted to ask a question, which is funny, but so that at least all the other fields can contribute towards it. So specifically, depending on whichever field that you are in, like, can our panelists speak to the idea of at least going for a good journal as compared to, let's say, journals that may not help you in getting a job?
Romeo, I'm trying to see if I understood your question. Is it going for a top journal or going for a low tier journal?
So my question was, any good journal. So how do we, or how are we able to find any good journal that has good impact factor that we can at least publish in to help us progress? Like, how do we do that?
Okay, so for me, and I think most of the speakers might have spoken to this earlier in the workshop. For me, one key thing that I used or I did was in my literature review, getting started on my research, I realized that most of the papers that I was reading with relevant topics and relevant citations and all of that were coming from one particular or two particular journals. So most of the, I'll say most of the well-cited words were coming from two main journals in my field, Water Research and Bioresource Technology, and their impact factors are above 10 and all of that. So automatically, I desired to publish in those two top journals in my field because I realized that they were the ones that I was seeing from most of the papers that I was reading. So for me, that was one way I decided I was going to publish in these top journals, because they are the ones that pop up in almost all the research that I was doing.
Any other contributions?
Thank
you.
Let me throw the question to Dr. Champon if he's still online. I think he touched it for the natural and applied sciences. Dr. Champon, are you around?
Yeah, I'm here, Francis. Yeah.
So can you just rehash what you said for the sciences, how to find good journals?
Yep. I mean, there are websites that you can use to find good journals. We talked about the SGR. We talked about the DOAJ, and then we also talk about Scopus. These are very good search engines that you can use to find out what a good journal would be. They show you the citation score or the impact factors. And then based on that, I mean, the higher the impact factor, definitely you want to go for that. And so you resort to that and then you make the judgment. But I mean, I told you guys in the applied sciences that, I mean, list at least 5 to 6 journals in that order of impact factor, and then work towards that. Take it to the highest one. I mean, your advisor will have an idea where everything will go to once you're a student. But in case he's allowing you to maneuver around, just try the highest impact factor on your list. And then once you take it there, if they don't even accept and reject, based on the feedback that they give to you, the review comments, you can improve your journal and then take it to the next highest one, and you can, or even as Juliet said, a better one, and that can be accepted. And so this will be my idea of how you can assess good journals. Know the website and know your field of study well. And once you have that idea, you can easily go in there and do that.
Thank you. Any other contributions?
I think someone's hand is still raised, so.
I was thinking probably it's from the previous.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm just taking advantage of this webinar because I believe it's a resourceful avenue for me to get the answers I need. You may submit a paper to a couple of journals from Dr. Chempon's submission from the break room. Using Elsevier for an example, you submit it to multiple journals and then you expect feedback from each of them. So let's say you submit a paper to about 5 good journals, and then you have about 4 amazing feedback from 4 journals, and then one that you would really wish to publish in gives you a negative feedback or a rejection. From the review from the other 4, you realize that you have done a great job. Can you still appeal to the one that rejected you?
Correction. Okay, I think Felix should speak to this, because I don't think he mentioned that you can submit to 4 journals simultaneously. No, he said you can shortlist 4 journals and then apply to the top one. If they reject you, you can go to the next. It is not ethical to submit to more than 1 journal at the same time with the same paper.
Juliet, you're correct. Exactly. That's correct. Yeah. So that's point of correction. You submit, take to the first one, wait for everything to happen. If they reject, that means they're not going to publish. Then take it to the next highest one, and then in that order.
Juliet, why is it unethical to submit a paper to multiple publishing firms? Because I have downloaded papers from the same paper from different websites and different publishing websites. I'm just wondering why it's unethical.
Think of it like proposing to marry 2 or 3 women at the same time. That is the best analogy I can give to it. Okay, so it's like you're telling this journal that I've done this original work, I've not submitted to anywhere else. You're the one I'm bringing to. What do you think about this? You know, so I think the analogy I can give is, you know, comparing it to asking 3 different women to marry you at the same time. If 2 accept, what are you going to say? Are you going to tell one that, hey, I take my proposal back because, you know, this other person has accepted me? So if the journal accepts you, are you going to say, hey, I'm withdrawing because this other journal has accepted me? So you can't have one journal published or accepted to be published in 2 journals at the same time. So that is it. It's not ethical.
Yeah, let me add on to what Juliet rightly said. So it also borders down on issues of copyright and of course also plagiarism. Yeah. So don't forget that even you yourself, you can be cited for self-plagiarism, right? So just imagine that 2 of them are published. So who owns the right to that work, right? Of course, you are the author, but don't forget that the publishing house also has a certain benefit that they get for publishing your work. So 2 people cannot, like 2 people can't share 1 woman. Let me put it that way, like in quotes, just as Julia rightly used, right? You know, so the whole idea is copyright, and of course, literally like who has the right to the work. Yeah, so it's not ethical. Yeah, and it's not right. It's not appropriate for, I mean, you to submit at least at the same time to 2 or more journals. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Understood.
And I think to add to Blessed, what you said about seeing 2 papers on different websites. So I think it's more of a copywriting, as Dr. Romeo said. So I saw 1 paper that was a working paper, and I think the person wrote it somewhere around 1998. And the paper was so good that was so cited that one journal reached out to the author and they put it on their official space. So you see people citing it through the working paper link, and you see others also citing it through the journal's website and their DOI links and all that. So I think that can happen, but you can't have it accepted at the same time by 2.
Okay.
I just want to add this. So I'm not at the high level, but sometimes we review our professors' papers when they get it, and it actually counts part of our grades. Just starting as a PhD student. So there was this guy that sent a paper, and I think that was my second review that I was doing, but my professor rejected it. I thought it was good, but he called it self-plagiarism, and he showed it on the board. He has already published. What the guy does is, when he finished writing his paper, he submitted to so many journals. And I think initially it's good and novel, so almost all the journals accepted it. And then he just changed the topic and he was submitting to another good journal. And this professor caught it. So he said, I've already written to the reviewer. Not only has he been rejected, but he has been banned from from submitting to these top journals. So this is something that I have experienced, and I think it's really true from what you guys are saying, that if you are caught, maybe you may go away with it 1 or 2, but if you are caught the next time, you're just going to be banned, and that's the end of your career. So yeah, that's all I have to add to it.
Yeah, and one quick thing to add is, sometimes you see conference papers, you know, rebranded into journal articles. That, I think there is some leeway to that, because at the conference side, you don't really add a lot of details, but then in the journal articles, although it's the same work, you get to add more details in the methodology and even more analysis. So it's the same work, but, you know, with additional information. That is okay, but, you know, for journal, no.
Yeah, I think, Juliet has brought another dimension to the discussion. So my advice is, be careful with conference papers. Some conferences would request for the copyright what you're publishing. If they do take the copyright, you cannot submit that article to any journal. Be careful. For example, in computer sciences, if you publish in a conference, it's equivalent to publishing in a top journal. Yeah, so for statistics and some other areas, the conference organizers will tell you, oh, we are going to publish, but we won't take the copyright, so you can submit it to any journal. So be careful. Yeah, we want to be seen out there through conference publications, but be careful who you are giving the copyright to. If the conference takes the copyright, you cannot submit it to a journal. Thank you.
Thank you. Joseph, you have your hands up.
Yeah, I asked the question, but my network was bad, so I didn't hear anything about the answer.
Can I say the question?
Yeah, I was asking about the publication fee. I was asking like, when are you supposed to pay? Is it after the review or before the review? And I mean, can you request for a waiver or something if you don't have the amount they are requesting for?
Julia.
I think I answered that question. So
You answered, yeah.
Let me just
Yeah, I didn't, because of my network, I didn't.
So your question is in two parts. When do you pay? When you are submitting, you'll be given notification. If you are going to pay, you'll be notified that in case your article is accepted, this is how much you have to pay. Do you agree or do you not? So you know beforehand. And then when it's accepted, as part of the acceptance process and you signing the copyright papers, you'll be asked to make the payment. So that is on the payment side. And then can you ask for a waiver? The answer was, I haven't seen any journal that allows you to choose a waiver of the fee because it's a model. The journal publishing is a business. We, the researchers, do all the hard work, and then the administrative work of getting the work done and putting the paper out there is handled by the publishers. So for them to recoup the costs, either the author pays or the readers pay. And that is a model chosen by the publisher. So if the publisher chooses the open access journal approach, which means the author pays, then you can ask for a waiver. If the publisher chooses a paywall access, which means the reader pays, then you, the author, don't pay anything, but people who want to access the journal would have to pay. Some journals are trying to do a mixed model. So you don't have the option. So far as you choose the publisher, you are going with the publisher's model. Joseph, I hope I've answered both questions.
Yes, you've answered. So if they pose the question to you that this is the amount you are going to pay and you accept, then they will do the review and send everything. But then after everything, you pay the money at the last step, right? If I'm getting it.
Yes.
To add to that, Joseph, I hope you are aware that you can choose a non-open access and not have to pay. So paying only comes with requesting an open access. Are you aware of that?
When he mentioned something like that right now, that's I didn't join it, so I'm sure you might have said some of these things. But...
Okay, so what we are trying to say is, if you don't want to pay, then go with a non-open access where you just submit your journal, and if they accept, people have to pay to view or to read your paper. So you have that option.
Okay. And I also want to know, is there anything like maybe a website or something that you can easily check the predatory journals from the non-predatory ones?
I think if you follow the chat, some suggestions have been made in the chat, but I think if you miss those, I think the person could post it again for you. And if anyone can also comment on this too.
So that was mentioned by Dr. Ellis Adams. I think that was his whole presentation. So we would definitely share the recorded version of this whole workshop. So I would recommend that you pay attention to the second speaker, which is Dr. Ellis Adams. It gives a lot of resources on how to identify predatory journals and some website that lists supposedly predatory journals. It's difficult to pinpoint which one is predatory because if you do that, they might come after you and sue you. So people just keep the lists at the back of their mind and try to avoid them. But instead of avoiding predatory journals, I think the focus should be finding the top journals, right? Top journals, I haven't seen any top journal that is predatory. I haven't. If anybody has, please come out and speak. So put your focus on looking for the right journals instead of sitting down and waiting for the journals to come after you. If they are coming after you, most likely they are predatory.
Thank you. So we'd like to wrap up, but if there are any questions as we are wrapping up, if there are any questions could be asked you. Joseph, do you want to ask another question?
My hands was up.
Someone.
Yes. So from the ethics point of view, and you've mentioned on not submitting a paper to 2 journals at the same time. So my question is, let's say you have a paper that you have submitted to a journal, and then there is a conference proceeding that you want to present that paper, though it's very limited for the conference side, as it is detailed for the journal part. Is it still ethical to present the paper at the conference? And also, my second question is, since you cannot submit a paper to 2 or 3 journals at the same time, can you decide not to publish your paper in a particular journal after they have reviewed and accepted? Thank you.
Okay, I don't want to do all the talking, but for the sake of time, let me talk. So you have 2 questions. If you've submitted a paper for publication, right, it's under review, you can present it orally at any conference, right? It's still your property. It's still your academic property. Even if it's published, the publisher has a copyright, but it is your intellectual property. Okay, so you can present it at anywhere. But let's say you submitted this under review and you went for a conference and the conference wants to publish it in the proceedings, right? That is why you have to be careful. You have to be careful. If the conference proceedings will take the copyright, you cannot give it to them. You cannot give your paper to them. If they are just publishing it as, oh, these were the papers that were presented, we don't own the copyright, you can go ahead and give it to them. So that's the first part. The second part, can somebody remind me what the second part was?
The second part is, since you cannot submit a paper to multiple journals at the same time, let's say you submit to a journal, you considered about 3 journals, and then you submitted to the first one, they reviewed and accepted it, but you don't want to publish it, you want to look at other options. Is it ethical?
It's not ethical. It is not. You have the right to do it because it's your intellectual property, but it is not ethical. Remember, other people invested their time in reviewing, giving you the feedback, and now it's accepted, you are withdrawing it. It's going to raise questions. So now put yourself in the editor's shoes or the reviewer's shoes. Kofi Mensah brought a paper, went through all the process, and then withdrew it at the final stage. When Kofi Mensah brings a paper next year, are you going to review it? Or if you are a reviewer in another journal, and you know Kofi Mensah withdrew his paper from journal A, would you go ahead and review that same paper in journal B? So
absolutely no.
Yes, so you are just tarnishing your own image. If you go on doing this, you just tarnish your own image. So you need to be careful. As I don't know if I said it here or there, small, I think here, the community might seem anonymous to you, but it's a very small community. Most editors and reviewers know themselves. So if you mess up in one journal it can mess up you in all the other journals. And I think one lady said one guy was banned from all the top journals, not just one journal that he messed up, you'll be banned from all the top journals. I think we have Isaac. Usman and Danny.
Yeah, Isaac and Danny. So Danny can go and then Isaac would go.
Okay, so my question is just like the job market or the career route transitioning from a graduate program into that. So say you have 1 or 2 papers and a couple of citations, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 or something. Then you also trying to write another paper. What is the dynamics of self-citation? You are trying to maybe improve a citation to get an advantage on the market, or there's no point in doing that because it might look as a disadvantage to you. I just want to know any thoughts on that.
Dr. Isaac Jumo, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, but I think I missed out on the question.
What is the importance of self-citation? Does it help or does it have a negative impact?
I would say it doesn't. It doesn't have any negative impact, but just apply caution and ask yourself, this citation that I'm doing, this self-citation I'm doing, is it relevant to the current paper I'm writing? If it does, yes, trust me, go ahead. If it doesn't, but just feel like, okay, I need to put in something in there, I want to encourage that, yeah. Because I have one renowned professor, he was my advisor, he self-cites, and trust me, he has built this coherent pattern for himself in publishing. So if he's looking at text-based writing or the historical misrepresentation in trade books, he worked on one particular trade book, he's working on another. You see the pattern. So he can cite his previous work in the new publishable paper he's working on. That is fine. But if don't maybe like self-cite about 5, 10, I mean, it becomes something else to you. And in relation to the job market, I believe that as far as people cite your work, if you're about few self-citations, it won't make any huge impact. But if it's all about self-citations, it means it raises the question like, is your work not being recognized? Is it not being valued? Why are you self-citing? It raises those questions. That's why I want you to put it in a bare minimum. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's quickly move to Isaac as we are wrapping up. Isaac.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, you can answer.
Yes, thank you very much. Mine is just it's an addition concerning the fee waiver. I think about a month or 2 ago, myself and my colleague, we submitted a paper for publication to Intech Open. Yes, to Intech Open, and we needed a waiver on the publishing fee, and I think they help us with that. I don't know, maybe because because we were student, maybe undergrad, so they considered us in that regard. So maybe the waiver, it may depend on the kind of publishing, firm. Yes, that's what I just want to add.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, depending on the discipline, some journals have waivers for people from developing countries. They have those things, especially when you send emails to editors and all that. Joe, you said you have one last question. So can you make it very quick?
Yeah, I was asking, can you work on a paper that, let's say you are not, which isn't your expertise? Let's say I'm into something like chemistry. Can I work on something, let's say social sciences? Would they check my background? And is it also necessary to put your institution and your department on the paper? would those be checked as well? I just want to.
Yes, I think I'll try to answer the last question. Putting your institution and your department is very important. As a matter of fact, my experience, all journal or publishing firms request that and a little bio about yourself. So the credit goes to the school. And when my former advisor was doing that, I didn't know what he was trying to do, but he wanted to give my new school the credit. So even though we did papers way back in 2017, 2019, he asked me to put Purdue, even though I was yet to start Purdue, so that Purdue gets the credit for the published work. And when I came here, it's like every published work that is in the name of Purdue, it puts you on that spotlight, that you are making a meaningful contribution to the school. So it's very important you spell that out in your manuscript when they finally accept your paper. Yes.
And also, can you do something from a different field?
The question I'll ask myself is, what's the relevance? If it is relevant to the field, go ahead. And this is what I was taught through the experience being a teacher here. You have a line of research and you have areas of research. The line of research is the trajectory you build for the particular focus of your research endeavor. For the areas of research, you can delve into any areas that is of interest to you. So I am not in STEM, but like I said it in the mini group, a collaborative work we did, we had an expert who is in STEM. So he is the lead, she is the lead author, and we happen to be co-authors. We are 5 on the paper. My contribution to the paper was in analyzing the data tests. So you can see, I'm a contributor, but I'm not an expert in the field. But at least if they are mentioning about works cited out there, I have my name to such papers. So the collaboration really helps. You don't necessarily have to be in the field, but if it is relevant to the project you are doing, if it means being a co-author, go for it.
Thank you. So our time is up, and thank you so much. I know some of us have questions. GRASAC has social media handles and all that, and you can ask questions through those handles, and some of these resource persons could answer it through that. But I would call on Adelaide or Blessed, any GRASAC executive, to give the closing remarks.
Yes, Edwin, thank you so much for moderating this webinar. On behalf of GRASAC, we would like to thank our panelists. Thank you so much for your contribution and your time, which you've spent teaching us and enlightening us about publication. And we are very grateful. We also would like to thank our committee who put together this program, I believe chaired by Dr. Romeo. We are so grateful for taking our time to put together this program for all of us. And thanks to our audience for joining. Without you, this program wouldn't have been held. So thanks everybody for joining, and thanks for making GRASAC what it is today. We would make the videos available as initially communicated. GRASAC is about to, the leadership of GRASAC is about to transition to new leaders. And so we have opened room for people to sign up for different positions within GRASAC. So we encourage all of you to sign up for whether you want to be president, vice president, whatever position you would like to hold. We believe it's very important you do as much as you can. It will be closed in about 10 days. Yeah, so please sign up. Help us build GRASAC into the next level. Help us, get GRASAC out there to a higher realm. So please sign up and let's have this election. I'm not sure if there's anything our president would like to add. Glover. Okay, so thanks a lot. Before the one last thing before we go, we would like to take pictures. So if you'd like to put on your camera and put on a smile so that I can snip some few pictures. Thank you. Please, can you put on your cameras? Okay, I'm still waiting for a few more. Okay. So I'm taking the first one, smile. Just a second. Let me take another one. Okay, smile. Okay, thank you so much. I think this will be it. We'll see you some other time. Bye for now.